one's morality stems. Now, taking religion out of the equation, I would just ask you, where do you think a person's morality and moral behavior comes from?
Well, I kind of agree with Mark Twain, who said about atheists, to be an atheist is to be good for nothing. Good for nothing means not out of fear, not out of worry about punishment, not out of terror about the afterlife, but to be moral because it's the humane and the socially responsible thing to be, and because we are all moral creatures. That's how we're raised as human beings.
Well, that's the exact point I'm trying to get at, is moral creatures. But from whence does that spring within us? Do you think it's knowledge only, or is there some other spark of morality within a human being?
We're raised in and for society. We're raised by our families and those around us to be members of society, and that contains within it moral values, the moral values that societies are always based on. That includes some of the Ten Commandments, at least 6 of them in any case, and it also includes far more complex and far more contemporary beliefs, such as the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All this is part of our history as human beings, and morality is something that develops historically.
Now, give us some of the Ten Commandments that you're talking about. Not stealing, not lying.
Stealing, that's right. Not stealing, false witness, adultery. I would leave out all of the honoring God commandments because they're simply a jealous God insisting that he be put first.
And we abide by these commandments because it helps us get along with society and with each other. It just makes society function better. Is that what you're saying?
It makes society function better. But you can also notice there's nothing in those commandments about slavery. There's nothing about those commandments that have prohibited some of the worst of human behaviors towards other humans. They're a very early vision of morality. And society has evolved. And it's evolved so that we can talk today about human rights. And those human rights are as precious as any of the commandments and are something we humans have developed in our lifespan.
Jim, let me ask you, the commandment about not killing, do you think that extends to war?
Oh, of course. I mean,
it does extend to war.
Of course it does.
Yeah. Do you think that the Christian leaders in this country especially have broken that commandment?
Certainly. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
No question about it. I'm trying to get back to the professor's idea, though. It sounds like morality and, shall we say, goodness in your model comes from knowledge, from logic, from the things that work for us and don't work in human experience. And I'm trying, I guess, to get at where does an informed conscience in a human being come from, and what is it informed by if it's not religion? That's all I'm trying to get at.
And I'm answering very simply, one word: society.
So it's external.
No, that's internal. Society is in each of us. It's part of our consciousness. It's part of our being. The fact that you and I are having a conversation on the telephone is not about us individually only. It's about the fact that we share language, concepts, values, modes of approach. All of those came to us through our social upbringing. We're social creatures, and we're being that right now.
So our consciences are formed by the world around us, I guess, and the totality of human knowledge, that kind of thing.
Experience, social experience.
I don't want
families are the agents for that.
Well, thank you. I don't want to hog the phone.
All right, Jim.
I did have one other quick question. If, as you say, atheism is not to be defined as what it is not, which is religion, then, and I love your very positive spin on things. I think that's very refreshing. Then doesn't, in a way, the atheism that you talk about become a religion in and of itself?
No, not a religion, because a religion is defined as based on faith, first, and secondly, in the American context, a belief in a transcendent force beyond humans. And what I'm talking about is not based on faith, but based on experience and knowledge, and it's not a transcendent force. It's what I'm talking about, daily life and experience and history.
Well, thank you, Professor. It's very, very interesting, and thank you, Rob.
All right, Jim, thanks a lot. Good to hear from you. Let's take a few more phone calls. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Louis Corcoran. I'm calling from Tampa.
Hi, Louis. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I just want to see how an atheist will explain the spiritual experience of the believers. What you think is going on in the consciousness of a believer as it refers to the spiritual dimension.
And Louis, can you give us an example? I mean, have you experienced something akin to this, and can you give us an example from your life?
Yes, I'm a Christian. I have experienced, as many of us have, the almighty force, spiritual force, acting in our lives.
And what did that force do? Or how did you feel when you came in contact with that force?
Well, you could have episodes of healing, episodes of understanding problems and situations that have not been communicated to you from earthly context. You can also experience apparitions and by way of communicating with that transcendental sphere by way of dreams, visions, and things like that. How would you explain as an atheist that human experience?
Okay, let me answer that. I would explain a whole range of experiences precisely through the conception of the world and the human being that I'm presenting. We are not simply isolated, separate beings living on our own, but we are part of far larger forces and realities that include nature, that include the universe, the sun, that include also a whole history of nature going back 3.83 billion years to the first cell, a whole history of human evolution going back hundreds of thousands of years, all of human history, including closest to us, our families, but farther from us, going to the beginning of immigration and farming and a whole series of processes. In other words, we belong, and we belong to entities that are well beyond us, but are earthly entities. We're part of a very rich and complex and very meaningful human and natural history and world. And I have many experiences of feeling myself and finding myself in touch with these, but I don't believe they're transcendent. I don't believe they're out of this world. I don't think they come from a force beyond the natural and the human. Moreover, I find them, I can have these experiences often by reflecting on myself, because they're part of who I am. And so if people do talk about a spiritual dimension, I understand that. If believers talk about feeling connected beyond themselves, I can understand that. I think they simply have the wrong label on it, and I think the correct label has to do with all the things I'm talking about, and I think these relationships are real and can be mapped. They can be understood. They're not magical. They're not mysterious.
Okay, thank you very much.
Lewis, thanks a lot. Thanks for your phone call. 813